Hi, and welcome back for another daily dose of anime recaps. In this episode, we'll be covering the first 3 episodes of the newly released anime, Renai Flops. Asahi Kashiwagi is an ordinary high school boy until one day his life turns around by the predictions of a fortune teller. After meeting 5 beautiful girls on his way to school, through a series of unfortunate events, Asahi is told he must choose one of them to be his future wife. He must now follow his heart to choose the right girl as his lifetime partner, or be ready to lose all of them in one big flop. Before we begin, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and hit that bell button so you never miss an update from us. The anime starts off with a young boy, our main protagonist, standing in the middle of a white angelic room with nothing in sight. However, a few steps away, we're met by the sight of a young girl in a white dress and long dark hair. The girl starts running away, and our main character tries to follow her, only to have a beeping sound echo in the background, causing the whole scenario to slowly materialize into green fragments that ultimately break. Our main protagonist, whose name we find out is Asahi Kashiwagi, wakes up from a somewhat confusing dream. A rabbit-like stuffed toy is on the shelf above his head, holding the alarm clock, telling him to wake up. Well, that bit just got weird. Why would a grown-up boy have a girly toy in his room? Nonetheless, he goes downstairs and starts preparing breakfast while listening to an AI fortune teller called Étoile. The AI predicts that a series of good events will come in the way of a person born on October 8th, which is without a doubt the birthday of Asahi. The cheery mood of the room suddenly turns mysterious as the AI starts telling the lucky words for the day, which are corner, train, staircase, cleaning robot, dog, and letter. This anime is starting to get interesting now. The rabbit-like robot tells Asahi that it's getting late and he should rush to get the train. Quick as lightning, he packs his banana in a banana box and rushes outside. Yes, you heard it right, a banana box. Moving on, he checks his clock and finds out he's actually early, but still rushes. In another area, we see a girl with red spectacles, also rushing to not miss school. And would you have guessed it, the two crash into each other just around the corner. Bumping hard, they both fall over each other with the girl on top of him, her legs almost revealing her panties. Quickly, she gets up and apologizes while simultaneously questioning if he saw her panties at all. Asahi, being the gentleman that he rightfully is, quickly disagrees, which makes her feel relieved since she wasn't wearing a cute one in the first place, and leaves the premises. A bit taken aback by what happened, Asahi gets up and picks up a piece of clothing left behind by the girl and keeps it with him to give it to her if he ever finds her. He manages to not miss the train and enters a rather empty one to begin with. He sits on a seat before hearing a girl rushing towards the train before the gates close. She manages to get on and sits on a seat exactly next to our lucky man. What's even more interesting is the fact that she dozes off the very second and holds onto his arm for support. We could only get such moments in anime. The green-haired girl doesn't let go of his arm, and he has to pull away with all his power to break free, only to topple over her and grab her. Well, you get the idea. The girl wakes up and does an acrobatic kick, slightly missing his face by a few inches. Scared for his life, Asahi scurries between the open train doors to safety. He recalls the fortune teller's lucky words, but brushes them off as an idiotic prediction and starts jumping down the stairs. He makes it down in one piece, without an atom of misdoings. But wait, it doesn't end there. Close behind, a blonde girl trips on the stairs, only to fall butt first onto poor Asahi's face. She sits up, her butt right on top of our poor, but rather lucky protagonist. But she isn't the slightest bit happy about it. Calling him a pervert, she wanks him straight in the Leaning Tower of Pisa and goes off in anger. Well, he did deserve that. We think he's had enough of these predictions because, as you know it, Kashiwagi hides in the bushes from the cleaning robot. Happy to evade the robot, he walks off, but stops in his tracks when the robot brings him a bra that has pads falling left and right from it. Looks like someone's in trouble. A young girl rushes towards him, demanding her, well, undergarments back, and also calls him a pervert. The robot confuses her for being trash and pulls at her miniskirt, dragging her away, the bra still in the hands of poor Kashiwagi. Moving on, he meets a little dog that starts motioning him to follow it, which our innocent protagonist does, and well, he sees an even bigger dog in heat on top of the little girl screaming for help. By this time, he's had enough, and he walks off. But the big dog has better plans and instead targets poor Asahi, who falls on the ground and faints. He wakes up a few minutes later and rushes to his school called St. Aurifanus Academy. Sneaking into class, he manages to reach his seat and not attract any attention. Introduction of the new students is is done, and, if you could guess, they are all the girls whom he had just come across during his rather adventurous journey to school. The girls named Aoi Itsumisawa, who was the girl with the red specs. Then comes Amelia, the red-haired girl who lost her bra. Ilya, who was up against the dog in heat. Karen, who fell down the stairs. And finally, their homeroom teacher, Bai Mongfa, the green-haired woman in the train. With the introductions done, Bai sees Asahi hiding his face and calls him, letting everyone's eyes fall on him. Asahi shows his face to the class, which gets all the girls to recognize him and scream in anger. With red marks of a slap on both sides of his face, Asahi stands next to Yoshio, his classmate. He later tells of the morning events that led to the girls reacting this way. However, Yoshio still feels that Asahi is rather lucky to come across such exciting moments in his life, and if he wishes to make it up for his acts, he should probably apologize to them. In the girls' changing room, all four girls talk about their encounter with Asahi, and how he is such a pervert. But alas, Aoi feels that maybe it isn't entirely his fault. They are all in the gym, and Yoshio can't get his eyes away from the new girls. And also, Ilya, who we confuse to be a girl, but in reality is a boy. Nonetheless, Asahi goes back to his locker and finds a letter in it telling him to come to the cherry blossom tree after class, and to be prepared for anything. He makes his way out and almost bumps into Aoi again. She greets him happily and asks if he somehow managed to pick up something of hers when they collided that morning. Happy that he could return her handkerchief back, he instead takes out a bra and pretty much gets a slap from her. He deserved that one. He meets Karen near the food court and gives her his packed banana because they were late and couldn't get food. This warms her heart, and she apologizes to him for her earlier misunderstanding. He goes outside and is alarmed to see Ilya being chased by the same big dog. Ilya hides behind him, and poor Asahi falls prey to the dog in heat once again. His so-called heroic acts get Ilya to thank and forgive him. With his elbow hurt, Asahi goes to his classroom before being stopped by Miss Bai, who treats his wounds and apologizes for leaning on him in the train. That settled, we see Amelia coming inside and asking for bandages. To this, Asahi produces her bra and gives it back to her. Although she's embarrassed, she still thanks him for keeping it safe. With all of that done and dusted, Asahi proceeds to go to the cherry blossom tree and make the last part of the prediction, which is the letter come true. There he finds Aoi, who is blushing, and she, with all her might, tells him that she hates and loves him. This takes Asahi aback, and he couldn't think of what to say in this case. But he knew that this was the start of a very exciting school year. There's a legend that if you become a couple under a cherry blossom tree, you will share an eternal bond forever. Looks like Aoi planned this moment pretty well, except for the part where she forgets she has no panties on, and there's a lot of wind blowing. Asahi couldn't take his eyes off the area that keeps blowing her skirt up. Well, this is no surprise. He snaps back to reality and tells her that he wants to take this slow, and ruins the whole proposal by hinting that she isn't wearing her panties, getting her to run off in utter embarrassment. That was a really smooth move, Asahi, going out of your way to ruin the moment. Not understanding why the day is turning out to be so weird, Ilya surprises him from behind with a cute little woof noise. This certainly scares the hell out of him because of the past traumatic events. We do have a few questions. Firstly, why does a boy sound and look like a girl in the first place? What is even more surprising is Ilya, out of nowhere, proposes to Asahi, telling him that he loves him and if he has any problem if a guy has feelings for him. This day has really started to make less and less sense now. Ilya throws in his puppy dog eyes to convince a rather concerned Asahi, but God saves him in time before he could get a legitimate answer, in the form of Sensei Mongfa, who drags him away in a hurry. She takes him down to a dark alley, telling him it's urgent, and starts kissing him. Minutes later, two suited men are busy looking for her, and leave the alley when they see two lovey-dovey couples making out. Surprised and rather dizzy with kisses, Asahi asks why she did that, to which she tells him that she was being followed by men, and that she loves him too. This rather weird turn of events makes him disappear from the area at once. And as if it couldn't get any worse, Karen spots him from a distance and magically changes into a wedding dress. Screaming his name from the sky, she flies over towards him, which scares him off as he pretends not to recognize her. Pissed off at his behavior, she, like all the others, also tells him she loves him. But then again, our boy Asahi runs away, breaking another girl's heart. Finally, we have Amelia left, who disguises herself and asks Asahi for his signature on some papers. He reads the paper and finds out it's a marriage certificate. Now pissed, he throws the paper and makes a run towards his home. On entering his house, you would think he's he's safe, right? Think again, because all 5 girls are already there waiting for him to welcome him home. With a super warm welcome, they greet him with happiness, but instead get the door shut on their happy faces. This was not what he was looking forward to, one bit. He enters and is read out a message from his dad that these girls are potential wives. Even the boy, since his father isn't one to put a limit based on gender. Well, you certainly don't find dads like these nowadays. He further explains that these girls will live with him and he must choose one girl to be his wife, or no one at all, with a warning to not have kids yet. With the message ended, the girls triumph over their victory and are quick to suggest a series of things for their tired man. Warm bath, good food, massage, and so much more they suggest to him, but it's all too much to digest. Asahi tries to find some excuse to kick them out, but is speechless because there has been a new building constructed next to his house, creating 6 rooms for the girls and 1 boy. More excuses lead to more answers, which just ends up in Asahi letting the girls stay, since he couldn't resist the girls' puppy dog eyes. With that out of the way, they now start to cook food, which is absolutely delicious and mouth-watering, all thanks to Aoi. While the rest clean the dishes, Aoi sits next to him and thanks him for not throwing them out. Her juicy large opai does catch his eye, but is quickly distracted by Ilya. Not wanting to get carried away, he gets ready to take a bath. Karen follows him but is quickly thrown out by him. When he enters and washes off, Amelia is already in the tub, completely naked, begging him to come join her. Skipping the bath, Asahi goes to his room and checks to see if any of the girls are hiding inside to bug him. Finding no one, he happily falls on his bed to relax, but sees Bai hanging on the ceiling to catch him by surprise. This was the last straw, and instead of asking the girls to leave, he leaves himself and wanders off towards a shrine. Aoi, who has been really understanding and supportive towards him from the beginning, finds him and calms him down. She also lovingly asks him to come back home and tells of how all these girls waited eagerly to know who he was, since they didn't know how he looked but only knew his name, which was the reason why they behaved that way. Clarity now in the air, Asahi grows the courage to come back home and tells Aoi that he will if they don't mess around anymore, and gives her a smile. That smile sends flashbacks into her mind of a very young Aoi, making her cry tears of joy. They come back home and he allows them to stay, and so begins their wacky life together. It's 7 a.m. in the morning, and Asahi's alarm clock rings to wake him up. But we get to see Amelia under his blanket trying to do something that really has us raising our eyebrows. The multiple locks on Asahi's door have also been broken like a child's toy, and we have only one culprit to blame. Asahi opens his eyes and removes the blanket to reveal Amelia trying her level best to toe print for their so-called marriage certificate. God, can't these girls give him a break? Seeing this alarming sight, that too early in the morning, pisses him off. Breakfast has been cooked and perfectly prepared by Aoi, who Asahi notices has managed the whole house perfectly. All the girls come to Asahi and ask where all the things have been kept. Not to mention, she even has managed the laundry of everybody as well. If we could say one thing about her, it's that she is wifey material. One special thing about Aoi that he notices is that she never invades his room, unlike the other girls who can't seem to get their hands off him. Breakfast is ready with everyone's name written with ketchup, so perfectly by Aoi. Wanting to impress Asahi also, Amelia gives it a go, but ends up messing the whole thing up, and in the end, out of pure anger for her failure, throws all of the ketchup on it. It's kanji writing time at school, and it seems Karen is a pro at it. Flawlessly writing the correct answer on the board, she impresses the whole class with her intelligence. Again, little Amelia couldn't hold herself back and volunteers to do the next question on the board, to write fresh milk. However, it doesn't go as perfectly as she thought it would. Instead of writing fresh milk, she instead writes murky white liquid. Well, that wasn't one bit impressive, and we all have one thing on our mind. What was she thinking? Nonetheless, she brushes it off by saying it was a joke, even though we all could see her turning redder than a strawberry in full bloom. With that perfectly managed, they are told next week will be their test for kanji writing. Amelia tries to act all cool and says it's easy peasy for her and motions to Asahi, but sees that he has already disappeared. Asahi has escaped to the school's roof where he looks at peace to have lunch with his friend Yoshio. Yoshio complains of his dull life, whereas Asahi gets to enjoy a life filled with excitement and girls, which really isn't the case since he recalls how competitive Amelia is, where she lost in a simple game of rock, paper, scissors, and went as far as to wake him up all night to find a technique to win. The next morning, she challenges everyone to the game, and if they win, she will give them one of her special puddings. We all know how that went down. Amelia is left with 0 pudding by the end of the game. Asahi snaps back into reality and starts eating the food cooked by Aoi, which are all the dishes he absolutely loves. This gets him thinking, when did he ever tell her what his favorite dishes were? That night, he returns home and tries to help wash the dishes, but the girls have it all managed. Karen pulls Asahi toward her in a playful mood, but he's more concerned where Amelia is, since he hasn't seen her since lunch. He later goes to her room to find her, but stops dead in his tracks when he hears weird noises coming from her room. Face now turning amber, Asahi has no idea what he just heard from a young child's room. The situation couldn't have been any more awkward, until the gasping of her voice exceeds, and to top it all off, he hears his name being called out by her, in the most embarrassing way. Unable to hold himself back, Asahi barges into her room asking, what is she even doing? Like an innocent child, she says she is learning kanji, which isn't the least bit weird, not even the erotic words written all around her bedroom walls. She shows him the kanji stories and tells her desire to learn his country's language. Asahi guides her the next day by taking her to study at the library, and starts off by giving her a test to gauge her current level. It doesn't surprise us to see that she's answered all the questions wrong, with the most out-of-the-box, erotic words known to mankind. Embarrassed but not giving up, he gives her another test which, like before, is no different. That aside, Asahi still guides her to his best ability and gives her the direction to follow so she can ace her test. He returns home that night and finds out that Amelia hasn't come home for dinner and has been practicing all night. Her determination greatly impresses him. The next day in the library, he notices her working again and tells her to relax and not overdo it for one test. This gets Amelia to become emotional, and instead of thanking him for his help and concern, she cries and says if she doesn't work hard and get results, it will be equal to not trying at all. With that said and tears rolling down her cheeks, Amelia runs out of the library. Well, we couldn't have expected anything less from a child. Asahi returns home and finds out that she hasn't eaten her dinner and has confined herself to her room, making all the other girls worried. He goes to her room to check on her and tries to console her, but instead is told to leave. Before he can leave, she confesses her desire to learn his language and to be a better person, instead of being overly emotional and ruining everything, going as far as asking him if he hates girls who are like her. With a calm smile, Asahi tells her all the good qualities that Amelia possesses and how she's special. He places his hand over her head and tells her not to hate herself. This moment strikes a distant memory in Amelia's mind, and she recalls a time long ago in the past when Asahi had done the exact same thing. This memory warms her up and gets her to respect Asahi. He hands her an analog to quickly help revise everything. It seems this special moment couldn't have been missed, and all the girls try their best to peek through the door, but fall face forward when Asahi opens it. These girls have no sense of personal space. Jeez. The next day, Amelia sticks paper with the names of things all around the house to polish her skills. The day of the test has arrived, and with a determined look, Amelia takes it. With the test now over, Asahi takes out all the papers around the house. It seems Amelia has turned over a new leaf and even helps around the house with food. The results are announced, and our amazing Amelia has scored 70 points, which shows that hard work is always rewarded. It's lunchtime, and Asahi dines alone, with Yoshio on the roof. He opens his lunchbox to find a note saying, "Thank you" from Amelia, along with a lunch that has been perfectly made by her. This sends a warm smile across Asahi's face. The question still remains, who will Asahi choose to be his wife in the future? How many more tricks does Asahi have under his sleeve to change the girls for the better? And is Aoi the perfect girl to marry Asahi? We'll find out in the next couple of episodes of Rinai Flops. And if you're a subscriber with notifications enabled, you'll find out soon enough.